Hello and welcome back to the stew with JT Brew. We had a little too much fun on the hockey show around the ice. Me and Toast before this going over our Dynasty hockey draft. So we're running a few minutes late here tonight, but it doesn't matter. We're gonna have college football betting action for you. It's coming right now. You're in the stew.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sipping brew, sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the stew with JT Brew.
Welcome welcome all. I got my guy Benny D at Ben Dyer 8 and special guest tonight jumping in, our buddy Toast, fresh off the hockey. Get all fired up in the hockey show. He's like, let's do some college football action. I was like, yeah, come on. So at Toast Clark, you can check him out there as well. We are going to break down week 4 of college football. I tell you what, guys, I don't know if the gambling's been great, but man, the football has been great. We've seen a ton of great college football games kind of start out this year. It's been exciting, up and down, back and forth on the gambling. You know us, we love to throw in those parlays. They call me Mr. 3 for 4 for a reason. Love to go 3 for 4 on the parlays. This season has not started any different for me. Normal every day, just barely covering and then missing out on other one games. Before we get into week 4 action, let's just go back, reevaluate a little bit of the week 3 action, some games we saw, some games we love, we didn't love. One of my teams got it done. Missouri 27-21. Real nice win over Boston College. If you were taking the points there, you got crushed. Yeah. Missouri ended up with a 17.5 point favorite early. It ended up getting down somewhere around 13-14 in that one. And Missouri looked good all night. You look like you had the cover. And then Boston College, 38-yard touchdown pass with 3:45 left. Covered the 13, got it down to 27-21. That one hurt as I had that one at 13 there. I also had him in a teaser at -8. So the -8 also missed on the teaser. So that one hurt bad there as we got those ones going. Our Illini, for those of us, the people that don't know, we're all from Central Illinois, just outside of Champaign. The Illini, 30-9. It wasn't the prettiest game in the world, but how often in our lifetime have the Illini been 3-0 to start the year?
We'll take
Not a whole lot of times, fellas. 3-0 for the Illini. And now we're going to get into this here in just a moment. Big Friday night showdown with Nebraska, who's also undefeated. I tell you what, I didn't know if we were going to get this kind of a good showing early in the year, but it's going to be a nice one. We'll talk about that one here in a minute. Benny, I was trying to look at a few games we talked about last week. We told everybody Tennessee against Kent State. They just cover. They never fail. 71-0. Absolutely murders Kent State as a 49.5 point favorite. My absolute dog shit pick of the week. Freaking Georgia. 13-12. I mean, what a shit show. As a 21 point favorite, Georgia just does nothing at Kentucky. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that game? I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I think Kentucky's terrible. How did Georgia put up 13 points in that game? At that point, that's when you're just like, I hope they lose. I just hope they screw them. Hope they lose. I mean, that's so bad.
It was one of those classic college football weeks for Georgia where it's like they got a bye week on deck. They're on the road. You know, they thought they were going to walk in there and win by 3 touchdowns without trying. And it just, you can't do. I mean, college football's wild, man. And they let them hang around. And honestly, they should have lost. They should have lost.
It was an ugly game, man. Yeah. Oh my God. What talk about a terrible game to watch. We talk about how good football's been so far this year. That was an awful game. But you know what? The Benny D Plum's pick of the week. It hit last week, boys. Pulling it up. I feel it deep in my plums. Benny was like, I'm loving Indiana against UCLA. And I said, is this a welcome to the Big Ten moment? If you've ever seen one, UCLA dogs at home against Indiana.
I think that's what got me. It just stood out to me. Like UCLA is an underdog to Indiana at home. Like I know Indiana is supposed to be a little better, but to me, if Vegas has got Indiana a 2.5, 3-point favorite on the road at UCLA, it means they're probably way better.
It's real bad. I had that as one of my picks of the year was the under wins for UCLA 4.5. I just thought they were terrible. I had Indiana losing this game. I had this as one of the wins for UCLA. I'm feeling really good about that under now.
Yeah.
Freaking good about it. So we'll bring up Benny's I feel it deep in my plums pick of the week, but he's 1-0 as we added that segment last week, easily getting the cup 42-13.
Never in question.
I
don't get those very often.
You have a 3-0 Indiana and a 3-0 Illinois team. Is this freaking basketball?
What? I was looking at
Big Ten.
I was looking at Indiana's remaining schedule.
Oh,
I think they're favored in every game.
It's so easy
until they play Ohio State. So they might only be like a 1 or 2 loss team. I mean, how crazy is that?
I just actually saw odds for them to make the playoffs, and I just about shit myself. I was like,
their schedule.
Somebody showed the odds for Indiana to make the playoffs. What? But after last week, they're home versus Charlotte.
Yeah.
At home versus Maryland. At Northwestern. Bye week. Home versus Nebraska, which
that'll be tough.
Could be a monster game. I mean, that could. Yeah. Honestly, then they get Washington at home, who's been very okay. They just got worked by Washington State at home. They're at Michigan State, which Michigan State has not been good so far this year. They're young, though, so there's a chance they're better by then. Then they're home for Michigan, who's been bad, but still, it's Michigan. And then you're at Ohio State, which should be a drubbing, but you never know. And then Purdue, the big battle in state rivalry at the end of the year. But
it might be like a 2-loss team.
That's what I'm saying. If you're Indiana, you go 10-2. I mean, 10-2, 10-3, 9-3 here. I mean, you're still ecstatic. I mean, you won't make the playoffs, but I mean, you got to be ecstatic. I mean, what a start there.
I'll ask you, JT, there why they're probably. Let's say you guys project them 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 potentially. What will be their projection against the spread? Because what you guys are just saying right now, and I'd imagine that they're going to be. If you bet them against the spread, the majority of the time, based on the schedule and based on kind of the way the schedule is actually falling.
Yeah,
they may cover that 85% of the time.
Yeah, so they're going to be favored in most of those. I would figure they're going to be a dog against Nebraska. Even at home, they'll be a dog against Nebraska unless they fall apart. That's
going to be close. Yeah,
and that should be a good game. But they'll probably be a couple-point dog in that game at home. It's probably going to be pretty even against Michigan State, depending on what Michigan State does the next couple of weeks, because they got off to a bad start, but they're looking a little bit better. They're going to be a dog at Michigan. I don't care who you are. I don't care what Michigan's record in. Michigan's going to be a favorite. They have to be. They're going to be a huge dog to Ohio State.
Few weeks could be like 6. They'll be like 3 touchdowns against Ohio State, but
yeah, exactly.
But they're going to be either less than a touchdown dog or favorite in basically every game except Ohio State.
Which is wild. I mean, absolutely wild. So that's Benny was on that one. So that's the one we're going to keep an eye on. Colorado finally got right against Colorado State with a 28-9 win, finally ending my losing streak of taking Colorado. Texas rolled over Texas A&M. If you jumped on San Jose State like I told you to do, they were minus 17.5, 131-10. I loved them. We're going to talk about their game. They got the Thursday nighter this week. I'm not sure I'm confident in the Spartans as I was the last couple weeks, but that's an interesting one. We talked about Mississippi. It should have been the hammer of the week. Absolute hammer of the week.
Ole Miss and Tennessee have just been rolling.
They just run it up on everybody. They won 40-6. It was a 21-point spread. I took it everywhere. I'm like, if I have to, I'll take it down to 20.
I
'Cause
talked
I'm
to
like,
you on the
"There's no way."
phone. Yeah, I talked to you on the phone on Saturday, I believe, and I said, "Hey, tell me about Mississippi a little bit." And words out of your mouth said, "Lane Kiffin will run it up against anybody," and he did. And
If he
he's like,
can, he'll do it.
and Jackson Dart is the absolute man. And man, I don't watch a ton of college football, but I actually watched that game, and I'm like, that was men and boys there, man. And I mean, and every single freaking ball that Dart actually threw, especially against busted coverage, was right on the money. I mean, and when I say this right now, the white unis, holy crap, those are sweet, man.
Dude, I
right.
love Ole Miss's unis, man. Those white unis and then the blue helmet and then the powder blue jersey. I mean, dude, they're pretty sweet. And Lane Kiffin, he wants Jackson Dart to win the Heisman. I mean, he is like on it. He is like pushing hard. I tell you what, I don't know if any quarterback has improved his draft stock more than Jackson Dart in the last 2 years. He was like, okay, awesome, recruited USC, transferred to Ole Miss. People still liked him, but they're like, oh, is he going to be a good college quarterback? Is he really a pro prospect? He's starting to get some heat now. I think people are really liking him. I could see a scenario where Jackson Dart just balls out the rest of the year, crushes it at the combine, and all of a sudden he's that guy that no one was talking about, and then he becomes the number one QB picked in the draft.
Yeah.
I think it could happen. I mean, he is playing that well and that good of an offensive system in the SEC. If we're going to get a Joe Burrow situation where a guy just comes out of nowhere and just has the monster season and we didn't see coming and is a top 3 pick, I'm calling Jackson Dart. I think he's the guy.
Yeah, that's a legit offense, man. I don't. They're going to be in every game. I don't think their defense is probably. I mean, who knows? I haven't really, other than looking at scores and highlights, I have not paid a whole lot of attention. Can't say I know much about their defense, but you're that high powered. Like there's nobody you can't really just go toe to toe with, regardless.
So the rest of the week, Florida Atlantic, they got the win. We were talking about, we love them. Virginia Tech, after absolutely burying me the week before, got a win. So that was nice. Miami ran it up on Ball State, 62-0. Of course, none of my guys I played in fantasy had any points because they had all the backups in all game. The one big hit we took was Utah against Utah State. I had the under in that game. That seemed like an under team all year. All of a sudden, 59 in that game. Yeah. Now I don't know what to do with Utah. We'll talk about that in their upcoming game this year. Notre Dame, Benny.
Oh,
we talked about it. Yeah. It was 10 when we jumped on the show last week on Tuesday, and it just inched down the rest of the week. We were texting each other. I'm like, dude, this game is going to get to like 7.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to hammer this game. I mean, I bet on it at 10, but I'm like, we got to get on this game at 7. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm like, dude, we know Notre Dame lost us. It was a terrible loss.
Yeah.
We know who Purdue is. We know who Purdue. This should have been the hammer of the week. Yeah. 66-7 Notre Dame.
Super focused, pissed off Notre Dame team.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like almost too obvious. And then when the spread was going the other way, apparently, though, from, other podcasts and stuff I listened to, apparently that was mostly public money. Because Notre Dame loses to Northern, and then
everybody wants to jump on the dog.
Yeah. So
because I was going to say I couldn't believe it. I was looking at you and we were talking. I'm like, man, I don't understand why anyone is on Purdue in this game. I'm like, I just don't love Purdue, and I'm like, I know Notre Dame looked terrible, but this just feels like an easy win. They ended up winning. The other game we absolutely loved, and should have put $1 million on it. Alabama at Wisconsin. I was like, there's no way Wisconsin's taking this game. I'm like, they're going to get freaking shit walked. And they did. 42-10. It wasn't even close. It was 16.5-point spread. I loved it at 17. They absolutely dominated. Won by 32.
Wisconsin should have been in that game for like the first drive.
And then it was just like Alabama took over.
It was all Bama. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other game that absolutely murdered me last week, so I apologize to everyone. I was all over LSU at -7. I took it down to 6 in a couple. I was like, how do they not win by a touchdown against South Carolina?
You were right about South Carolina. You did say South Carolina's got some guys, and they do
have some guys, and the guys they have showed up. Yeah. Like Norris Sellers, their QB, came out. He had a 75-yard touchdown. Rocket Sanders. I tell you what, Raheem Rocket Sanders, the transfer from Arkansas, everybody was ripping him. He was hurt all year last year, put on some weight. Everybody kind of started calling him fat. He's a huge dude. I wouldn't call that guy fat at all. Pound your face in. Monster game last week, 19 for 143 and 2 touchdowns. I think he has a chance to work his way back up. But Lennar Sellers, the quarterback, 75-yard touchdown run, also put up 113 passing. I just was shocked that they stayed in that game.
Up. He had to come out of the game for a while, the quarterback, Sanders. I think if he doesn't get banged up, I think South Carolina, I think it's not even
they had LSU on the ropes. I was real upset. I just was like, I thought this should have been an easy LSU win. Their offense still put up 36 points, but struggled a bit. I thought Garrett Nussmeier would just absolutely light them up. He went 24-60 for 285, 2 touchdowns and a pick.
Yeah, he played good.
That's not terrible. That's a good game. That's how bad fantasy wise we are now, that we think that's just an average game. But I just thought he was going to just absolutely light him up. The game I wanted to bet so bad, and I just told you I couldn't get myself to do it, was Memphis +7 against Florida State. And they freaking win outright. Oh, love the Memphis Tigers. Great unis. Florida State's I mean, I don't know how you can realistically put any money on Florida State the rest of the year. You just lost at home to Memphis. And Memphis is good. Don't get you wrong, folks. I like Memphis. I think I took Memphis. If you listen to our pregame show, Benny, we took them to win the conference. We like Memphis. So that one, I was like, I want to take them in there. The other game that me and you were just loving was UNLV covering against Kansas, 7.5-point dogs. I thought UNLV would be in the mix. I said it was a money line special. I was like, UNLV can win this game. They did. 23-20. Nice little upset win. We said the over in the Arizona State Texas State game. Everyone got on it. It was 59 when we said take the over. It ended up finishing 59. It was 65 by game time.
Yeah.
Everybody started jumping on it. Great game, 31-28. And then this is going to be our perfect transition into the Thursday night game. South Alabama, 87-10 over Northwestern State. I think I saw something that said it was the top 4 or 5 scoring output in NCAA history.
Toast, you jumped in on that.
Toast, you're muted. Toast muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I was hanging out with Ben, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and take that game, considering I think it was 45-10 at the half." And so I think the over under at the time was 91.5. I went ahead and took the over, and it went to 97. And I don't know.
I'm taking the over, and I go, huh? I'm like,
yeah. It's like, I sure want to do that.
You kind of have to. Like, that's about the only way to go.
Yeah, that's just me. Like, hey, I'm looking for something to actually bet, and I went ahead and put it on there. And
sure enough.
Yeah, I mean, geez, that was again mid-major whipping. So
didn't they cut the game short by 5 minutes or something because of, I don't know why. I heard something about basically the coaches just decided to call it because it was so out of control. And then there was talks like they weren't going to honor bets because it was not.
Because they smoked a bite. I did not see that, but it definitely something definitely funky kind of jumped in there. But yeah, it was 87-10. I mean, they scored their last touchdown with 4 minutes left to put them up 87-10.
Yeah, and Appalachian State
after that.
Yeah, in Appalachian State, my brother's actually his daughter, my niece actually goes to East Carolina. East Carolina was actually up 16-0 in that game. Appalachian State actually visited over to East Carolina, and they came back and actually won that game. So it'll be an interesting match. I think it says South Alabama what +7 now.
This is our Thursday game. That was our transition. Thank you, Toast, for jumping us into that. Appalachian State 2-1 against 1-2 South Alabama. It's a 7-point spread right now. Over under is 63.5. This one's going to be interesting. I think it's a little closer because South Alabama just put up all those points. But I tell you what, Appalachian State's pretty good. They're pretty good. They're one of the teams I really like. They got a good quarterback, Aguilar. He's tough. If you twist my arm here, I think I think Appalachian State gets this one done at home. I think they cover the -7.
Yeah, I mean, 63.5 doesn't seem, after last week, doesn't seem crazy either, but
No.
I don't know. I think Appalachian State's probably,
Appalachian
South
State in
Alabama
their
just
games this
doesn't.
year, they 20. They lost the opener to Clemson 66-20, and then came back last week 38-10 over East Tennessee State. That was close. I think Appalachian State gets that one done. Personally, I think they win that one. And then they just beat East Carolina 21-19 last week in a close game. But Aguilar, the QB, threw for 424 and 2 touches. He's a baller. If you're on a CFF team, he's a guy that puts up points. So if you're looking at a little same game parlay Thursday night, definitely look to take him on the over yards, passing and touchdowns. We got a nice little Friday night slate here, fellas. Let's start it off with our guys. Why wouldn't we? Illinois playing another big. I feel like I've seen more big Illinois games this year than in a ton of years. Illinois right now, this game has been absolutely wild. This game has jumped up and down all over the place on the point spreads right now. It was down to 7. It got all the way up to 10. Last I checked, it was 7.5. Nebraska is the favorite. If I can get Illinois at 10, I feel like I gotta smash that bet. 7.5 is the last number I saw. It's been bouncing between 7.5 and 8.5. Over under 42.5. What do you guys think? Number 22 Nebraska at home 3-0 against number 24 Illinois 3-0.
Man, I mean, I'm giving Nebraska the edge just because, we're Illinois fans. We know we've seen this story before. You can't fool me. Well, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's tough because we have looked better, way better than I expected. But so is Nebraska, man. That defense they have is pretty good. And that freshman quarterback is pretty good. So, I mean, and they're at home, so they're going to have a little bit of an edge. But, man, big game on Fox for Illinois, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Toast, what do you think about this one? We don't usually get to see Illinois play these huge ones. Right now, like I said, depending on the book you're looking at, I've been seeing everything jump between 7.5 and 8.5. And I looked yesterday at one point, I was watching a show, and it jumped up to 10, went to try to get on it, and everybody had got on it, and it was all the way back to 7.5 all of a sudden. It was I know there's big money came on Nebraska all of a sudden real quick, but it pushed it way up.
Yeah.
It's back down to 7.5. My heart says I want to take Illinois 7.5 to be in this one. But man, you're right, Benny. I like this Nebraska D. They worked me against Colorado. I thought Colorado was going to make it a game. I thought Colorado would get an upset, and their defense just shut down Colorado. And I like Illinois' offense. I like what they've done. I don't think their offense is anywhere near as good as Colorado's offense.
No.
I'm real scared about this one. If I did anything, I feel like I got to jump on the under, even though it's low at 42.5. This game feels like a 17-10, 21-10 type of performance. So right now for me, I had to jump on the under. What do you think, Toast?
Yeah. So as an Illinois fan, I went back and looked at some statistics. We've only had 3 owners start 6 times since 1981. All right.
What?
So, but in those 6 times, we actually do pretty darn good. I've always said as an Illinois fan, football fan, and I'm not a big Illinois football fan. I'm an Illinois basketball fan, but I do actually follow the football team and actually want them to do well. But if you can be 500 or a little bit better and actually get to a bowl every year, and then every once a decade actually sprinkle in a 10-win season, that's your goal, right? So you would think that Illinois, from what I take away, their defense is pretty good. Their secondary is actually pretty good. They actually, I think Briggs Jr. is actually named a defensive lineman. Really gets out to the quarterback. I like the under actually scoring here, but as well, but also like Illinois to keep it close. If you go back and actually look at Illinois' not only their games this year, but their games last year when they actually pissed away their season at the end, they played every single game close. So you assume it's going to be close again. I love Illinois. If it's 10, like that a lot. It's going to be a close game, but I think Nebraska is going to win. But man, I would if you can get Illinois at +10 at close to even money, that's a great play right there.
Yeah, it's 7.5, 8.5, depending on what you're looking at. I'm going to keep an eye on that one tight.
Okay.
Because, like you said, if it gets up to 10 again, I feel like I got to take Illinois. I do like the
8.5,
under.
yeah.
I definitely do really like the under in that game. The other game we got Friday night, San Jose State Spartans against the Washington State Cougars. 11.5 for the Cougs right now, over under 55.5. I'll tell you what, Wazoo off to a pretty nice start this year. Got a good win over Texas Tech. I thought Texas Tech was kind of like, I was like, okay, that was a pretty good win, but maybe Texas Tech's terrible. Well, then they come home and just absolutely work North Texas, which I thought that game was going to be semi-close. I saw quite a few prognosticators say, hey, man, if I'm taking a money line dog, North Texas is my money line dog this week. And I kind of was leaning towards, I'm like, man, 10.5 Texas Tech's look terrible. Texas Tech rolled them. Makes me feel even better against Wazoo now. Wazoo, a real tough, close win against Washington in the Apple Cup last week. I've liked San Jose State every week. I don't think I can do back to Spartans this week. I think I got to be on Washington State minus 11.5 at home.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. This is another one with a spread. I glanced at it, I think it was just yesterday, and it was up to almost 14. And now it's down, to 11.5. So somebody's liking San Jose State here as well. San Jose State's look pretty good, and I do feel like
they've been solid. I just don't think they played a team like Washington State, and I think at Washington State is what makes the difference for me. I've said take San Jose State the last 2 weeks, and they cover the last 2 weeks, so I've liked them so far. I really want to take them in this game. If it gets out of hand,
solid though, man.
If it's got out of hand, I might jump on them. But if it's in that 11-12 range, I think I got to take Washington State. Got to take Wazoo. But if for some reason this line gets wild, like it gets 16 or 17, I can see myself pulling the trigger on San Jose State.
It's a little, I don't know, maybe it isn't, but to me it feels like a little bit of a letdown spot after
the big win against Washington, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe that's what people were thinking when they bet it back down to 11, but. Yeah, I don't. I mean, if you were just playing this game and it was any other week and it was on a neutral or something, like Washington State's just a better team. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So.
Yeah, and JT, I'm just looking at some stats here, and actually, I know that last time I was over your house, actually, we bet San Jose State on a live bet, and actually, and won that game.
But
they throw a lot. So Emmett Brown's actually got a really hell of a start right now. 9 touchdowns, 2 picks, 915 yards. And they don't run a ton. So I wonder exactly how Washington State's pass defense is. But you may actually know that. I really, really don't. But it seems to be if their pass defense is that would be the matchup you need to look at.
Yeah.
So the other Friday night game, which all of a sudden I've got all kinds of Friday night action to watch. Actually, Ben, shout out to our head coach, Tom Schallenberger, getting inducted to our high school Hall of Fame on Friday night. So trying to watch the Illinois game, do all that. I hate to say it. I think some people are thinking about leaving the high school game a little early, trying to go watch the Illinois game at halftime. But he's getting inducted there at halftime. So be out there to see him. But on top of that, my other team, Syracuse, playing on Friday night at home against Stanford. That number's been bouncing around a little bit. 8.5 last time I looked at it. This one I'm pulling up right now on DraftKings right now is -9, over under 57.5. If it stays under that number, I like Syracuse. Syracuse, I think, is highly underrated this week. Just this year.
I don't think Stanford's very good either.
I don't think Stanford's that good, and I like them at home. The Dome has been rocking this year. Cuse is back. They got a new coach. I tell you what, man, I posted something on X the other day, and I did not get a lot of love out of it. Kyle McCord has looked phenomenal. I know Ohio State ran him off, and they absolutely hated him. I think Kyle McCord's better than Will Howard. Sorry. I think he is. I think he's a better quarterback than Will Howard, and Ohio State ran him off. A guy that lost one freaking game. One game, but because he wasn't a Heisman finalist, because they had 3 in a row, they run him off because he loses to Michigan. Kyle McCord looks like a different player. He is full of energy. He is pumped. He's on the sideline. He's getting fans up. He's getting players up. I think this Syracuse team is sneaky. I also think the ACC is just not good. I just don't think it's very good.
Coast too, isn't he?
He's a New Jersey guy. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. went to high school together. So that was the big connection, was him and Marvin Harrison Jr. went to high school together and then went to Ohio State together. And when Harrison Jr. went to the pros, they kind of told him like, you might want to go somewhere else. And he went to Syracuse. Syracuse, hotbed of New Jersey. They recruit New Jersey hard all the time. Some of their best players in the school history are from New Jersey. New Jersey. Well, I lie about that as I say that. I totally lied. Why did I say New Jersey? Philadelphia. Gosh, that's bad of me. Fact check me. That's Philadelphia. They're from Philly.
That's a similar feeling between Philly and New Jersey.
They're the East Coast guys. They're East Coast guys, but they're Philly guys. That's my bad. Complete. No, there is a lot of Syracuse guys from New Jersey, but I was wrong on that one, so I apologize. It is Philly that they're from. I just like McCall McCord. He's come out absolutely firing this year. He has looked phenomenal. They've had some of their best receivers still hurt, and he still looked great on the year right now for Kyle McCord. I mean, if he was on anyone other than Syracuse, I think we're talking, Heisman race for these stats, but people just are not, they're overlooking him. 69% in both his games, 354 and 4 touches with a pick, 381, 4 touches, no picks.
Jeez.
On the season, guy has 735 yards, 367 a game, and 8 touchdowns, QB rating of 170. Right now through 2 games. Now we'll keep that up all year. It's going to get tough as the schedule gets tougher, but they beat a tough Georgia Tech team. I think Ohio played them tough. I think this is a win. If I'm in on this, I'm taking Syracuse the points, and if I'm teasing it, I'm taking Syracuse tease down, and I'm taking the over. I think Stanford's got a decent offense. I think they can put up some points as well.
Yeah.
Right now, I think it's at 57, if I'm correct. But Stanford has actually been able to put up a few points. They've been inconsistent, but Syracuse so far 31-28 and 38-22 in their 2 games. So they've gotten over that 57 number. So I like them in this one.
I'm with you. You're convincing me. The more we've talked about this, I'm already thinking about it. So I'm like, I'm seeing a Friday night parlay come together here.
I've already. If we want to do a teaser, I feel like I got one built in here. I already kind of like teasing Illinois down. I get teasing Illinois up. I like Syracuse down. I kind of like Washington State down. I kind of like Appalachian State down. We might have to get a Thursday, Friday night teaser here as we get going throughout the show.
Yeah, and JT, I didn't really notice that Rondé Gadsden. So I remember that name just because his dad actually played for Miami Dolphins. So I actually remember that. I'm like, wow. But he's really broke out these first 2 games here, especially at home versus number 23 Georgia Tech. And he's got 6 for 93 and 7 for 108. He scored 2 touchdowns and then 1 touchdown. So off to an electric start. If you could end up getting him, and versus Stanford actually coming in as well. You're right. You actually like Syracuse with the points, but also too, maybe go ahead and parlay that. We have to look at Stanford's pass defense and see exactly where they're at. But that can be an opportunity there because he's off to a really hot start.
Yeah, little McCord, Gadsden, Syracuse, same game parlay. I like where your head's at, Toast. Yeah, Gadsden hurt all year last year, coming in as kind of one of the top tight ends in the country, missed the whole season. He's got off to a great start. And if you watch the games, he's had a couple calls that have called back. He had a 50-yard touchdown that got called back. And one of the games, he could have even bigger stats. He has looked dominant. He has looked great. Kyle McCord has loved him. He's hit him. He's got a big body. He's looked fantastic this year. The running game with Allen has looked fantastic. So we have to build up a little Syracuse same game parlay here at the end of the show. We'll have to jump back into that one when we talk player props at the end of the show. All right, that's our early matchups of the week, Thursday, Friday night shows. Let's get into some Saturday action. First off here, we're going to jump into a couple of the top 25 matchups. Not quite as many big games this week as was last week. Last week was a wild one, and that all the end of the year rivalry games got moved to week 3 because everyone is in a new conference and they had to play these teams non-conference. So a lot of big games last week, not quite as many this week, but we still have some good showdowns. The first one I'm going to bring up here, and this one I don't know what to think. I want to see what you guys have. Your thoughts are. NC State at number 21, Clemson, 20.5-point favorite for Clemson, over under 47. Currently for me, I'm staying away this game. NC State's quarterback is hurt, Grayson McCall. They're going to start a freshman. I love the freshman, but I am nervous in this game. Clemson has looked good at points, but they've looked terrible at points. Do we trust them to win by 3 touchdowns? I'm not so sure, even though I thought NC State would be a lot better at this point in the season. They have really disappointed the last 2 weeks for me, and they did not cover either of the last 2 weeks for me. So it's hard for me to take NC State to cover again, even though it's 21. So I think I might avoid. You guys like either side on this one?
Man, if I had to do something, I'd probably take the points, but I don't. It's like you were saying, this is a tough one because the variance is so much. Like it could go, Clemson could roll them, or it could be, a fairly close game. And I don't know. This one to me is, like you said, it's a tough one to bet. I don't see much.
I mean, I like CJ Bailey, the freshman, but man, going to Clemson, Death Valley.
Yeah, first game.
That's a tough start. That's a tough first start, right?
But like you said, I don't trust Clemson to necessarily just roll them either. So,
it kind of feels like a tease game, right? Where you're going to go ahead and bring that down to maybe 13.5 and go ahead and buy some points and parlay it. Because if you look at I just know that I bet this game early in the season when NC State actually played a neutral site versus Tennessee, and Tennessee obviously just shit pumped them 51-10. But the fact that they actually did not take care of business at home versus West Carolina and Louisiana Tech as well, only actually winning those games by 17 and 10 points as well, tells me that NC State's probably not that good. If you can tease down to Clemson, actually maybe buy a touchdown on that and actually put it in a parlay, that's probably the bet.
Yeah, I like your heads out there. I feel the same way. Other one, this one is a wild game. Penn State, 40.5-point favorite at home against Kent State. Kent State, as we just talked about, got worked by Tennessee. The over-under is 55.5. So they're basically saying Penn State has got to win this and not give up a score or give up one score to cover. Man, Penn State has the crazy thing is when they're this big of favorites, they've actually got a pretty good record. They're actually pretty solid under Franklin, which is crazy because it feels like they never cover. But when they're huge home favorites, it seems like they do cover because he's one of those guys. He's like, I need the advantage of looking like we won by more. And he will throw the ball or do something crazy with the backups in late. Yeah. This one's tough for me because you're going to need them to score every possession. I'm probably avoiding this game, but if I did anything, I think I'm taking the under 55.5. I think Penn State rolls here, but I could easily see like a 42-3, 45-3 game where they just barely cover because it's almost 50, but the over-under is 50, almost 56. I don't feel confident about it. My confidence level at a 1 to 10 scale is probably like a 2.
Yeah.
But I'd probably take the under if I had to bet something.
48. I mean, that's crazy. But Penn State, like you said, Franklin has a reputation for kicking that field goal when it doesn't make any sense. And it's like, well, the boosters, they want to cover, so it's been talked about.
For example, they had a game last year. I think they were up like 32 or 35 against Northwestern. They get a turnover, fourth quarter. They got the backup QB in. What does he do? Fakes the knee and throws deep. 40-yard touchdown cover. I'm like, yes, because I had Penn State. I'm like, yes. But I'm like, how often are you going to get that where the coach actually freaking does that and helps out the bettors? That's what I'm saying. This should be an absolute bludgeoning by Penn State, but man, the 49.5. College kids, you got to score every time if you're going to get that many points. I think it makes me a little nervous.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and JT, I don't really like any bet on that as well. You'd think that after almost losing at home versus Bowling Green 34-27. No, we were sweating that out. Looking at that. But you would think that the mentality of this team has got to be either they're going to go ahead and come back from that and actually really put up a shit ton of points, or we're going to go ahead and take it easy, make sure we actually get out of here unscathed, healthy, because going to Illinois, then I know UCLA is not all that good at all, but then they actually have USC and then Ohio State on. So the end of the year schedule is actually very, very easy, but the middle of the schedule is actually very difficult. So you just don't know. You don't know whether or not they're going to take it easy, try to actually keep IB healthy, or is they going to try and make a statement because they're pissed off by how they played at home versus Bowling Green. So interesting game, maybe just stay away.
Yeah, that I agree with you there because it feels like they could have a monster bounce back game after that Bowling Green showing, but it makes me nervous. This might be, it should be the game of the week by far, but with the way Michigan's played, it's been a little bit iffy. Right now, number 11 USC at number 18 Michigan. USC a 5.5 point favorite, over under 46.5. What are you guys thinking on this game? Is Michigan? I mean, we're not even 6 months removed from a national title, and the luster has really worn off of the Wolverines already in this one. USC, the big win and the opener against LSU, but now how good does that look after they barely get by South Carolina? You guys got to lean on this one. You got to get a feeling one way or another.
Man, I don't know. I think Moss is legit for USC. I think he's a real deal player. So, and this is probably, I mean, obviously everybody thinks it's 5.5 point spread. It's a 1-score game. I think I trust Moss at the end of the game. Doesn't mean they'll cover, but if you're just looking at the money line, I think USC go in there and win this game. I really do. That said, I mean, this is Michigan's entire season. Literally, their whole season is on. If they lose this game, I mean, not that they probably already kind of feel like they've blown it anyway, but they've only got one loss. So if they can get this one, they kind of back on track. Like they can start believing again, like we can make this playoff, blah, blah, blah. So Michigan is going to be all in.
They got to be because they already lost to Texas. If they lose this game, that's 2 losses.
Yep.
You still got at home against number 9 Oregon and then at Ohio State to finish out the year. You aren't getting to playoffs with 4 losses, especially if you've been winning ugly. Like, I just don't think you can get in at 8-4. I mean, I think you got to be a really good 9-3 with like 3 really bad losses that are like top 10 teams, or you got to have 2 losses max. So if you lose this one at home, I think if Michigan, you're in trouble. I just think you're in trouble. And I tell you what, just not the same Michigan team. I mean, it's not your fault on them. They just a ton of turnover.
They lost a ton
Nobody
of guys,
on offense. I mean, they are really struggling. I mean, we just saw them win 28-18 against Arkansas State.
Yeah, I know.
And
that's
Texas,
what I'm saying. And like,
I think this is a cover for USC. I'm jumping on it now because I think by game time it gets up to a touchdown. I think enough people jump on USC, it gets up to 7. I want it now. Why it's under 6.
I don't blame you one bit. I cannot bring myself to bet Michigan. Let's put it that way. Like I mean,
it feels dirty, doesn't it? Like they're taking Michigan. It's like you feel like you're just like holding on. Like I can't do it. Another big game.
Hey, JT,
go ahead.
Yeah,
Toast,
I say the only thing I'm really actually even considering doing here is the fact that Michigan has actually proved to the fact that they really can't pass the football. And again, I'm not a big college football fan, or in the fact that I've actually watched a couple of their games already, and
no, they can't.
They can't pass. They're going to run
bad teams, and they can't pass.
Yeah, so I would say, especially in a game like this, they're going to want to establish the run. I would assume. I would actually hope so. That is their best bet to actually win. So I would hope that maybe Quail Mullings or Donovan Edwards. And Edwards was a more impressive back last week. Anyway, maybe you can actually do the over/under on the attempts on the carries. That's about the only thing I'd probably even consider doing on as a game. Maybe you could actually get them at over 17.5 carries for one of those guys. Like go ahead and hit that
the clock and run the ball.
That's the only way they can win the game.
No, I'm 100%. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I like that one, Toast. Another top 25 game here. Number 12 Utah, 2.5 point favorite at number 14 Oklahoma State. Over under 53.5. I already talked about me sweating out the Oklahoma State for a couple weeks ago, where I was just like, that game was wild against Arkansas. Oklahoma State as a home dog, 9-1 in their last 10.
Oh,
9-1 in their last 10.
Turned out, huh?
Cam Rising is supposedly playing for Utah. He got hurt. He's supposedly playing this week again. I tell you what, I feel like I just gonna ride the Cowboys train. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be sickening at times, but it's gonna be exciting at times. I think I'm going with Mike Gundy and the Cowboys. I like the 2.5. If I can get a +3, I like it. And if you're looking at a dog money line pick to add, you just take straight up or add to a parlay to really crank that effort up. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking Oklahoma State at home on the money line. I think they can get this thing done. Utah last week, they've got a good defense. The offense is iffy. I was a little shocked. I did not think they played very well last week against Utah State. Now they got a fairly easy win, 38-21, but Utah State's not very good, man. They're not very good. I think Oklahoma State gets this thing done. This is the battle of the two oldest quarterbacks in the history of college football. I think both these guys are 28 at this point almost. I think they're in their 7th or 8th year in the league.
I'm a man.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're almost the same age as their coach at this point. But I like Oklahoma State. I know Ollie Gordon struggled a bit last week, but this team has got a lot of firepower, and I just think Oklahoma State gets it done at home against Utah. I just don't think Utah has enough in the tank on offense to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I saw this one and immediately kind of thought Oklahoma State. Utah is one of those. They're just, man, they're a grinder.
Good. They are grinders.
They're a hard-nosed team. But I mean, this should be a really good game. This should come down to the wire. But I mean, Oklahoma State at home, they're 3-0. The place is going to be rocking. I mean, it's the home field in this one is probably what puts it over the edge for me. I think probably Oklahoma State can pull this thing out, and that's a big game for both these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the Big 12, I mean, whoever actually wins this game, you could probably say they have the inside run at winning the conference and getting into the college football playoffs. I mean, this is a big one. I mean, Oklahoma State, if they can win this one, they got a monster battle at Kansas State next week, number 13. That will be a huge game. Then they're home for West Virginia, at BYU, at Baylor, home for Arizona State, at TCU, home for Texas Tech, at Colorado. Solid schedule, but not crazy. I mean, this Utah-Kansas State game is probably the two toughest ones on their schedule. And then you never know, that at TCU, at Colorado game. I mean, those games could get wild. Yeah. I mean, I could see those games just getting funky. So, yeah, this is a real interesting one in the Big 12.
Toast, what do you think?
Toast, you got any thoughts on this one?
No, nothing on that other than the fact that the only at the price, the +110 for Oklahoma State seems to be like the play, and the fact that Utah actually coming off a really hard fought victory versus Utah State, who just got shit pumped by a bunch of other people. So I don't know. There's a bunch of unknowns. Probably stay away from the game altogether. But the only play
we want to watch and just kind of.
Maybe you're right, Ben. Like put in the bank, right, and actually just bank that and actually put it in your memory. But the only price is the +110.
Yeah, I like that. Or waiting to see if Oklahoma State gets the +3. Yeah, and see you do it. The other top 25 matchup this week is number 6 Tennessee -7 at number 15 Oklahoma. Tennessee 7-point favorite, over under 57.5. We've talked about it all year. Tennessee has been a cover machine. Oklahoma has been extremely disappointing.
Yeah.
Can Tennessee go in to Oklahoma? I mean, this is a gut check game for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Are you going to be real this year? Or are you going to be a fake this year? Oklahoma's got to stay in this game. If they get blown out at home by Tennessee, I mean, the Oklahoma fans, the wheels are going to come off. Like, I mean, they're crashing the wagon. I mean, this thing it's going to be ugly. They got to be in this game. That being said, I'm taking Tennessee. I think Tennessee. I know Oklahoma's 3-0. I know they're 3-0, but it's been an ugly 3-0.
It has been.
It hasn't been pretty. They haven't looked that great. Jackson Arnold is supposed to be the savior. He's looked very okay in the early going. They kind of looked out against Tulane, they won by 15. Felt like that was kind of a lucky game. Houston 16-12, an ugly game after a 51-3 drubbing of Temple in the opener. And we all know Temple's terrible. Like you said, this is not basketball. They're horrible on the football field. Tennessee here, if Tennessee can get this one done, looks pretty good for Tennessee now in the top 5, top 6. Tough schedule left for Oklahoma, boys. Tough schedule. If they don't get this one, they got at home against number 1 Texas. They're at home against South Carolina, who's all of a sudden feisty. At Ole Miss, who's number 5. At number 7 Missouri. Home for number 4 Alabama, and at LSU to end the year. Rough. That is a rough schedule going down the stretch. I don't know if anyone has as rough as them. If you don't get this one at home against Tennessee, it could get ugly for Oklahoma, which I hate to say that about a team that doesn't even have a loss yet this year.
Hey Ben, I'm gonna hop in front of you here. You're the co-host in this damn thing, but I don't want to. But I'm just gonna ask you guys as actually big college football fans. When was the last time you actually remember Tennessee being this explosive and this good, this early? Well, I mean, and then you think Oklahoma every single year they're like this money, and they have not actually looked this good. This is Tennessee's time, man. This is Tennessee's time. They're just going to come in there. It's you -7. Absolutely.
Hooker, 2 years ago, the offense was humming before he got hurt. But if you look at this game, they're at number 15 Oklahoma. After this,
didn't Josh Heupel get fired by Oklahoma as well?
Well, Josh Heupel was a quarterback legend, Oklahoma quarterback legend there. Ended up going to Missouri, was an assistant at Missouri, and then took the Tennessee job. I think there was quite a few people in Oklahoma were upset he didn't get hired back at Oklahoma.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
And so he took the Tennessee job, and he's put in this spread, wide open, deep threat offense that just pushes the defense to the seams. He wants to stretch everybody the length of the field. He wants to spread everybody out. After this game against Oklahoma, though, it looks kind of nice for Tennessee. Bye week at Arkansas, home for Florida, home for number 4 Alabama, home for Kentucky, home for Mississippi State, at number 2 Georgia, then UTEP Vandy to finish out. You win this one, and you're Tennessee. Alabama, Georgia is the 2 toughies left. Even if you go 10-2, say you lose both those games, 10-2, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah,
you're in the playoffs. This is a monster game for Tennessee. I think he's on their ass. Like, hey guys, we win this game, we are in prime time to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they got to be focused, and I'm with Toast 100%. Where we've seen Tennessee where the hype train has tried to put them up there, and then they just don't quite match up with these other big SEC teams. But I think it might be, like I said, Tennessee, it might be their time. It might be the time for them to make a breakout. And now with this playoff, they get by this one, and they're looking pretty good to get into that playoff. So it'd be a fun one too, man. There's actually some better games here this week than I thought.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's that's the main games of the week. I'm pulling up DraftKings here. Let's just let's skirt through a few teams here in the last little bit of the show here. Let's kind of look at some of the games out there, see if there's anything kind of jumps out at us on this slate. I'm kind of jumping back up to the 11 a.m. games here, fellas. One of the games that I've kind of like, you got Indiana -28 at home against Charlotte. Are any of you touching that game, or are you just staying off Indiana after the big win?
Indiana will win that game, but I don't trust them to just throttle anybody after going to UCLA and winning that game. That's a big win for Indiana last week. So
yeah. I tell you a game I like here. I like James Madison +10.5 at North Carolina. I think James Madison is going to come ready to play. North Carolina quarterback injuries, they just don't seem like they've got it together this year. They seem a little off. I like James Madison covering this. I'm going to jump on the points on James Madison 10.5.
I like that.
Kansas, West Virginia. Kansas is reeling. West Virginia hit and miss. They're at home. if I had to jump on this one, I'm taking West Virginia -2.5. I think they win this game at home. Kansas has looked rough, and West Virginia, other than Penn State really putting it to them, which I think Penn State is better than people realize, even though they had that rough game against Bowling Green. I think West Virginia is a team that can put up points. If you push me on this one, I'm saying West Virginia.
Yeah, I think for me that would be the same way. You can't trust Kansas. I mean, even though this is, after the last couple of weeks getting beat by Illinois and UNLV back to back, this is probably it for Kansas.
Yep, they got to have it. West Virginia's 1-2. Yeah, both teams are 1-2.
Yeah,
West Virginia
so
lost
they need it bad
38-34. That's a tough one last week to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm with you.
What do you guys think? Do you think Ohio State can cover the 40 against Marshall? This is one of the ones like Ohio State used to be the kings of never covering, and now they cover. Now they like to cover because they're like, hey, we got to get the points. We got to look good. I think Ohio State covers this.
Marshall's probably not even.
Marshall's not
even the same. Shouldn't even be on the field with them. They should cover the 40, really. So.
Yeah, I think it's Ohio State all the way in this one. Florida, Mississippi State. Talk about freaking ugly. Oh, my God. I don't love this game at all. I thought Mississippi State's looked a little bit better. I mean, Florida, classically has one of the toughest schedules in the country this year. The Graham Mertz injury at quarterback. I have not seen an update on whether he's going this week or whether they have just said, nope, we're going with the freshman. Obviously, they've got a 5-star absolute stud in DJ Lagway, who's looked, he's struggled a little bit, but he's looked decent when he's had to play for him. Both these teams 1-2. Mississippi State looked like they were improving. They lost that 30-23 game at Arizona State. And then they turn around and you lost all confidence last week when they lost 41-17 to Toledo. To me, I don't want any part of this game because I don't trust either one of these teams whatsoever.
Yeah, no. Yeah, this is a tough one to bet there. I will say, and this is okay, so I watched a little bit of the New Mexico State and San Diego State? They played last week because I had a stupid parlay at the end of the night. But New Mexico State might be right there with like Western Michigan as one of the worst teams in college football. Like it was awful. And it wasn't even like they were playing a team that should be completely dominating them, but it looked like a high school team. So now I'm ready to just fade New Mexico State. I'm like looking at this Fresno State -15.5. And it's like, after seeing New Mexico State play last week, man, I mean, they were so bad. It was just not even the same team as New Mexico.
I'm like, look at it. That's a 9 o'clock start we got there. I'm trying to find. Oh no, you got Fresno State against New Mexico, not New Mexico State.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong team.
So no, New Mexico. I like their offense, but you're right. I think their defense is really bad. Their defense has just gotten worked by people. So far, their losses are 35-31 to Montana State, 61-39 to Arizona, and 45-19 to Auburn, who, Auburn just replaced their quarterback and won that game. So that's a toughie. Fresno State, I like where your head's out there. Currently, I'm trying to see the spread. I got them on there. Right now, it's 15.5.
I've seen what team it actually was. In my head, I thought it was New Mexico State. I'm like, that's the bet of the century right there. New Mexico State is god awful. But
right now on DraftKings, I just finally found it on the book. Sorry, fellas. 14.5 right now for Fresno State, over under 61.5 is the later game there on the night. So 7:30 Central Time for us, 8:30 Eastern.
What do you think about Missouri, Taylor?
Ooh, so the Mizzou game, I tell you what, obviously I like Mizzou this year. I think they're really good. Usually, me and my cousin Rhett went to Vanderbilt. I took him on his I always talk about the story. I took him on his college visit. I said, this school is awesome. You got to go here. I saw the shortest overtime game in NCAA history, 2 plays. Georgia Tech ran a quarterback keeper for a 25-yard touchdown on the first play, and Jay Cutler threw a pick in the end zone on the very first play for Vandy. 2 plays and over.
Cuddy.
So we love smoking Jay Cutler on the show, but he lost that one. Vandy's been better than I thought they would be, to be honest with you. Their new quarterback from New Mexico State, Benny, since you just brought it up, Diego Pavia, has actually been pretty strong so far this year. He's got 543 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, but he's also run the ball really well. He's got almost 200 yards rushing and a couple TDs as well. It's 21 right now. That's the one thing that scares me is the 3 TDs. I think last week, Missouri, I think, could end up dominating the game and looking pretty good most of the time and could somehow see a non-cover. So this one's got me a little worried. If I'm doing something, I'm moving it. I'm buying a point. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it under 21. But I think Missouri should put this one away. It's minus 21 right now, over under 53.5. Vanderbilt's been better, but I do think Missouri gets this one done. I just think they have more talent on offense and defense. Vandy coming off at the absolutely worked me week 1 with that Virginia Tech win when they beat Virginia Tech. I still don't know how that happened. That was my play of the week was V Tech in that game, but Vanderbilt beat me down on that one, so I probably owe them here. I think Missouri early afternoon game. I'm probably buying the point just to get it to 20 so they can win with 21. But I'm taking Mizzou. I gotta have confidence in my boys. If you want to be a national title contender, you want to be in the playoffs, you got to beat Vandy by 21 at home.
Yeah. And hey, Missouri's looked good, man. They've looked really good. So
the defense was the worry, and the defense has been really solid.
Yeah, and JT, I know this quarterback, Pavia, because in my short time actually betting college football last year, me and my brother, actually Gail, we were on this guy in New Mexico last year. I was getting ready to say New Mexico last year from the rushing yard perspective, and he can rush the football. You would actually imagine that they're going to actually want to run the ball. I think Pavia, he is a gamer, this guy. Yep. So
he's a guy.
I like the under. Just because that's the only way they actually have a shot to stay in this game is that they can actually run the football, slow the clock down, and actually keep this a low-scoring game, and they actually know it. So my guess is in Missouri coming off last week where I wouldn't say they kind of struggled, right? I mean, so
they had some moments they didn't look great, but they got it done at the end. But it was closer than I think most Missouri fans would have hoped.
Yeah, so the under feels right here. And this kind of feels like your classic 30 to 10 game, 30 to 13 game, somewhere around there where you're on the under. It's a low scoring game. It's a running the football type of game. That's the only way Vanderbilt can keep it close.
Yeah, it tells 53.5 right now. Missouri has not covered that this year.
Yeah,
they've been under every week. 51-0, 38-0, 27-21. Like I said, their defense has been solid. If you look at Vandy has covered that 53 number every week, but Missouri has not. So that's the interesting thing is Vandy's gone over every game while Missouri's been under that 53 number each game.
Yeah, this guy's this Pavia, man. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, 928 yards rushing last year on 7 touchdowns, 177 carries. I mean, and I'm not going to even pretend to actually know Vanderbilt's offense here. All right. I mean, that's for you guys to actually say whatnot, but he had under 3,000 yards rushing as well in that conference. He's again, a dual threat. He's going to want to run the football if he can. So it just makes sense.
Yeah. Transfer portal. I mean, they knew what they were getting, I'm sure they've tailored the offense to them and yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see the under that. Yeah, like I said, the 3 touchdowns has me a little nervous as that game feels like backdoor cover written all over a 3 touchdown game. A few more as we creep down here. Liberty, East Carolina, -6.5. I would love to take Liberty. They just haven't got right yet this year. I like the talent. That could be one where they could get it. I'm a little surprised on this Miami 16.5 against South Florida. As Miami's really come out and put it to people.
Yeah.
They're ready to roll. I'm trying to look and see what a couple South Florida numbers here because this just seems well. South Florida's 2-1. Within Cookman, 48-3, easy win early. 49-24 last week against Southern Miss. They got beat 42-16 against Bama. I think that's where this number is at because they actually played Bama tough in week 2. So people kind of forget about that. That game ended up being a big Bama win, but at one point in that game, it was 21-16 in the fourth quarter. 6 minutes left in that game. It was 21-16 before Alabama put up 3 big touchdowns in the last 6 minutes of that game to kind of get the cover and make it look like it was a dominating win when it really wasn't. So I think that's helping South Florida. Look at this. Honestly, South Florida, anyone who is a college football fantasy fan knows Byron Brown, the QB. He's a dual threat guy. He's got 448 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 254 and 2 rushing this year. The guy is a stud. Cam Ward has been off the charts for Florida. For Miami, over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. Yeah. I know South Florida's been tough, but man, I this one I really want to jump on the 16.5.
Yeah, I would lean that way as well. I do think this is going to be tough, though. South Florida's going to be all in on this game. It's an in-state game. South Florida's, like you said, pretty good, man. That dual threat quarterback is tough. Miami's looked really good, but I mean, they played Ball State last week and just absolutely throttled them. I mean, Ball State is not good. I mean, it's just a really bad team. So it's a tough one to judge because I really could see South Florida kind of hanging around.
I can see South Florida hanging around. So right now, Miami 41-17 over Florida, 56-9 over Florida A&M, and 62-0 over Ball State. Now, not a murderer's row to start off the year.
Yeah, we found out Florida State's no good too. So it's like,
they crushed Florida. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, though. I do think this Miami team is tough. I love Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is great.
JT, maybe look at a prop for that one instead, because honestly, if we had to discuss it this long, I mean,
Cam Ward over passing yards, Restrepo, receiving yards is one props I would definitely take a look at on those props for sure. Florida State, California, there's no way in hell you can get me to bet money on Florida State right now. I just can't do it. If I was going to bet, I would take California. It'd be huge. Back to Cal, they just won at Auburn. Then came home, really put it to San Diego State, and now they're a 2.5-point dog at Florida State. If you're looking for a money line dog, plus 114, Cal would be somebody I'd be thinking about because like I said, you cannot force me to bet money on Florida State right now.
No, that's a coin toss. They're definitely a live dog right there. If you're looking to do a little money line dog parlay or something, that would be one I would throw in there for sure.
Yeah, got a couple other games as we're just past the hour point. We'll make sure we got out of here by an hour and a half on the show. See if there's any other games out here. Florida Atlantic plus 2.5 at UConn. I don't love playing at UConn, but I do like Florida Atlantic, and I don't like UConn. So that might be another one. I might look at a plus 120 on a dog. Flipping through a few more of these. Already talked about Tennessee, Oklahoma.
Iowa, Minnesota. So obviously with that line being what it is, scroll up a little bit with the Iowa Minnesota game.
Yeah.
I mean, Iowa. Actually, no, go back down.
Where did I miss it? Did I miss it? Did I go by it twice?
Yeah, keep going. There
it is. There it is. There I missed it. Sorry,
so I'd like to get your guys' take on that because honestly, Iowa came out and really, I mean, obviously they Illinois State, I know was at the beginning, kind of doing that by memory because they're just down the road and stuff, and it was a close game till the third quarter, and then blowing them out by like 40 or something like that. But Iowa surprised me. You got to remind me, guys, on who they actually played 2 weeks ago, but they ended up scoring way more points than I actually thought they would. But they're on the road now with Minnesota. So I'm just wondering, maybe that 35.5 under is actually pretty good, but just curious on what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I was been really like in those high 30s most of the year for the over-unders. They covered the Illinois State game. I think it was like 38 or 39. They won 40-0. So they covered that. It was right on the number at 19-20 when they lost to Iowa State. Troy last week, they had their best offensive performance in a while at 38-21, won by 17. That went over big time. This went back to 35. Real interesting is Minnesota. They've been mostly low scoring as well. They lost 17-19 in the opener to North Carolina, beat Rhode Island 48-0. And then the Nevada, they won 27-0 in that game. This feels like it should be an absolute defensive battle. But I always get worried in these games where offenses are not great that the turnovers end up swinging things. And somehow the turnovers end up defensive touchdowns or short fields. And that's how teams get points.
Special teams touchdown or
something along those lines. This one's a toughie. If you're an Iowa person, I can see you going, oh, Iowa's winning by 3 at Minnesota for sure. But I also, as a Minnesota person, I can see you being like, yeah, we can cover that. We can keep it close at like 3 points and take like a +3. That one's too tough for me. I feel like the smart money is taking Iowa. I think Iowa's just got a better team. But Minnesota's tough at home. PJ Fleck, those guys can ball. Their quarterback's better. Bosmer is been solid this year for them. I could see that being a close game. And again, I'm worried about the 35.5. That's so low. It's so low.
Yeah.
You have to have basically no short fields, nothing, no easy touchdowns. Because if not, you just cover that. So that's a toughie for me.
Weather to be a factor too.
Well, exactly. If this was like a November
Yeah.
game, I'm taking the under because you're like, oh, it's going to be freaking freezing in Minnesota.
Windy.
It's going to be like -10. Take the under. That one's got me nervous. If either one you guys got to play on that, let me know. But I think I got to avoid.
You got to think it's going to be running the football. I mean, it just bleeds that, right? Where you're not going to see a whole lot of points. It's going to be a smash mouth game. You're going to see slow down, running the football on both sides. So any maybe passing stats on the under for the props, but then again, they're not going to give you much to work with, right?
Yeah,
so
I mean, be pretty low. I would
so
assume.
maybe it's just a game to stay away from. But I was just curious. I mean, because that's like a 35.5 just jumps out at you.
I mean, that's a crazy low score. Here's another one I love. I mean, Georgia Southern's been okay. They got the nice win last week over Vanderbilt, actually. But we talked about it. Ole Miss is running people up. 35 points right now against Georgia Southern at home. I think this is an easy cover. I got this one 49. I think actually I lied. I think that's too low. I think this is like a 56-3. 63-10 game. I think Ole Miss just puts it to them. Their offense has been good enough to cover up their defense. If they have any weaknesses on defense, you haven't seen it because their offense is just dominating.
Yeah.
So 35 to me is not enough for Ole Miss. I at home I think they cover this.
35. I mean, Georgia Southern must have something on defense if they're only.
Well, they just got a nice win at home against Vandy, but I just don't think it's high enough. Ole Miss is one of those ones like Tennessee.
Once they get
just
going,
don't know if you can get high enough on them so much because they're a team that will put up 35 in the first half.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah, this is one where you go ahead and take Ole Miss over the team points, get them into the 50s. If you can actually get them over into the 50s, you're going to go ahead and parlay that with Dart to actually throw at least 2 touchdowns, which is going to be easy. That's easy, right? They'll probably have that at like -250. Fine. And then go ahead and, their running back, anyway, JT, maybe help me out or whatnot, but get a 3-leg parlay there. Go ahead and get the over on the
Parrish.
team points.
You can jump on Parrish.
Yep. You can get on Parrish for a touchdown as well because they'll just do that because they'll start feeling bad. They're throwing the ball around everywhere. And then go ahead and get the 2 touchdown passes. You could probably get that at plus money, which is like just easy. That'll be I'm not a big college guy. That'll be the one I play. I will do that. I'll actually hit it hard this week.
Oh yeah, like Toast. I like that. I like
good.
that same game parlay. That's nice. We're gonna have to jump on that one. Here's another one that I was a late look for me. I wasn't really paying attention to the game because it wasn't sexy. Boston College -6.5 at home against Michigan State. I like Boston College, man. I just don't think Michigan State's that good. They're young. They got some talent, but at Boston College, they're coming off a tough loss against
Boston College,
Missouri. They played them tough. I like Boston
they're
College. I
just a
think
tough team, man.
they're a
Boston
tough
College,
team. I think they win that game. The fact that that's
gamer.
under a touchdown is surprising to me.
Yeah, no, I know it. That would be a sneaky money line.
Yeah, is Boston College no different right now than Tennessee, where you like this is our time. This is our time to actually go ahead and just punch them in the mouth. I mean, Boston College being 3-0, and nobody saw that coming. They could probably have been.
No, they're 2-1, Toast. They lost
Oh,
last week to Mizzou, but they played Mizzou super tough.
Gotcha.
They lost
Okay, my bad. My bad.
But they beat Florida State in that opener, 28-13. That really surprised a lot of people. And then crushed 2K. Couple close wins. Michigan State's 3-0, but they don't feel like 3-0. If you watch their games, they've won real ugly. They beat Florida Atlantic 16-10. They won 27-24 at Maryland, and then they won last week 40-0 over a real bad Prairie View A&M team. To me, at Boston College, I'm laying the points. I think Boston College wins this by a touchdown.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think Boston College is. I mean, they
just seem like such a better team than Michigan State right now to me.
And
if you've watched them, test wise,
yeah,
right?
that's what I'm saying. I've watched them. I can't remember. I'm blanking on the quarterback's name for Boston College, but it's like
Castellanos, I think it is.
Castellanos. There you go. But he's just a gamer, man. Like he's just one of those guys. He's just a competitor, and he just makes it happen. He's an easy guy to kind of bet on because you just know he's gonna do something. But I think I got my Plums pick.
Oh, okay. I like it. I like Boston College. I'm liking Colorado. I know I say this every week. -2 at home against Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like Baylor that much. I like Colorado here.
I think Colorado's a good one too because they're gonna, that was a nice win against Colorado State.
Yep.
I think it's got them back on track a little bit.
Yeah, but I think Baylor's a little down, so I like Colorado in this one, especially at home. I think they get it done with a crowd. Night game in Boulder. Everybody's ready to rock it. It's. I wish I was going, honestly, this week. I had this game on the schedule when I'm trying to make it out to a Colorado game this year because my niece goes there. So this was one on the schedule, but I thought I had a football game. It got canceled. I wish I'd known it was going to get canceled in advance. I would have flown out. But I think Colorado gets that one done. Texas 44.5 against University of Louisiana Monroe. If you don't mind laying the heavy points, I think you can take Texas. I just think night game, they're going to roll them. They are ready to explode. They're number one in the country. They finally are there. They beat Michigan. They're trying to prove that they can compete in the SEC. I think this team is ready to put points up on people. I know Ewers got hurt last week, but I think if Arch Manning goes,
I don't think it matters.
It don't matter. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and get the quarterback play there again. Nice little parlay piece if you can get there for 2 touchdown passes. Had Ewers last week before he actually got hurt, and that actually went for sure. And that was at like -120 for him to get 2 touchdown passes or more. And that's easy money. They're going to put up so many points. The 2 touchdown passes is going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it's going to have to. So you have to see kind of who's going to start in that game. And then is Isaiah Bond? Is that their Bond?
Yep.
Is Isaiah?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that would actually be a great guy to go ahead and just put in there. I like actually putting the Louisiana Monroe Texas game and also the Ole Miss game and the parlays for props and putting them together. So if you can end up doing it, because I mean you're gonna score a crap ton of points. A prop bets are gonna be everywhere.
If you've been getting if you would have been smart and you've been taking the Jackson Dart, Trey Harris, passing yards, receiving yards props, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter, passing, receiving yard props for Colorado every week. And then taking the Ewers Bonds props, you've been crushing it.
JT, that's no different than that's no different than the hockey stuff we end up doing, where we end up taking the assists and the team win, and then the over on the goals. I mean, this feels easy. So especially right now in a non-conference schedule for the most part, I mean, just go ahead and get those props while you can.
All right. We're coming down the last couple minutes of the show here. We'll throw some bets we like out here. Fresno State, New Mexico. Ben, like you said, where you're at, it's 14.5. If I threw that one in a parlay, I'd take it down to get it under 2 touchdowns, but I kind of like Fresno State there. Oregon State, Purdue, I'm ignoring. Oregon State should win that at home, but I don't like that game at all. I just don't want to have to worry about that game late now. Now, Kansas State, 9:30 game. Kansas State at BYU. Kansas State has looked really tough, but man, a late game
coming off of a big win.
Coming off a big win at BYU, and we've seen BYU beat some teams tough at their place. If you said it was a neutral field, I'm taking Kansas State all day long. Yeah. I'm a little nervous at BYU there, but I think I could be talked into 6.5. I want a late niner. I can see Kansas State. I just think Kansas State's pretty tough this year. And they got a QB that can run the ball.
Absolutely handled Arizona. I don't think Arizona's is good this year. I mean, they just got on that run last year at the end of the year. They looked really good, but man, they're not the same team so far anyway.
Kansas State looked really good in that game. I mean, both these teams are undefeated, 3-0 apiece.
Yeah. And so I think this is also a lot of hype going into that Arizona-Kansas State game last week. I think, like you said, late game, it's a little bit of a letdown spot here for Kansas State. BYU could get the Cougars, the old Cougs could sneak in there, get one. So
I'm going to have to keep an eye on this. This is a classic trap game. You beat Arizona. You're at BYU, then you got Oklahoma State next week.
Big one on deck. Yeah.
If Oklahoma ends up winning the big one, and then you got bye week, and then you're Colorado, West Virginia.
Yeah, it's a trap.
And then really Iowa State to get into the playoffs. This is a trap one. I'm going to have to really think about this one. Originally, when I just looked at it, I was like, oh, I like Kansas State here.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, this. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, the 6.5 is sucking me in. They're sucking me in with that 6.5. Going, you got to take it. It's less than just JT. It's less than just. It's less than touchdown. It's not a touchdown. You got to take it. I might have to avoid that one now that we talked it through because that does feel like a trap game and a half.
Yeah. Kansas State will probably pull it out. You know what I mean? It'll be down to the wire, but yeah, that's definitely a trapper.
Yep. All right. Well, Benny, you've had a little bit of time to think about it. You were right on your plums bet last week with Indiana. You got one that's kind of feeling deep down there?
It came to me early in the podcast. I'm going back to Friday. And we kind of talked this one through, and I think I'm kind of, I don't know, just struck me when you brought up the fact that because I don't think Stanford's very good, but their offense has been better than expected. Their defense isn't good. Syracuse, their offense has been on straight up fire. So I'm going over 57.5 in that Stanford-Syracuse game on Friday night.
Nice. So Benny D, I feel it deep in my plums. Play of the week. He is taking the over in the Syracuse Stanford game. He's giving you an early one, fellas. Like everybody. I'm like, this is giving you a Friday night.
Get it out of the way. Let's get it out of the way.
Give you a Friday nighter. I am gonna look here. I didn't pull it up in advance, though I was thinking about it. My JT parlay play of the day. I like Syracuse. I like Syracuse to cover. I think I'm taking the Syracuse points in my parlay. The other games I really like in this parlay, as we kind of talked it through and looked at them, I'm liking Colorado at -2 is my other team in my parlay. So I got 2 of them there. I think Mississippi absolutely rolls at 35. That's my third team in my parlay. And I probably shouldn't do it in this big of a game. But I kind of feel like Tennessee puts it to Oklahoma. I kind of feel like they do. That's going to be my 4-team JT parlay play of the day. Syracuse to cover. Tennessee to cover. I'm going to take Colorado to cover, and I'm going to take Mississippi to cover. And then I'm going to throw a little bonus JT parlay in here. If you want to get wild and you're looking at moneyline dog parlays here, my moneyline dogs of the week, I like Florida Atlantic at UConn as a dog. I like that one. I like Oklahoma State at home as a dog. That's my other dog. And then I had a third one that was jumping out on me that I liked as my third dog of the week. Oh,
Yeah.
Arkansas, a game we didn't talk about. Arkansas at Auburn has had a crazy run of covering. Auburn has not looked great. New quarterback. I like him better than the old quarterback, but I like Arkansas plus 3.5 right now. I think that's a close game. I think Arkansas can win that one. I think that would be a nice little dog there as well. So if you're looking to get crazy, you want to take 3 dogs, parlay them all together for crazy odds. I'll throw that one up on the Twitter page at JT Orange. So any other bets, you guys? I know we threw around some prop bets and some things. If you're looking for those prop bets, we'll build them. The only thing about college is sometimes early in the week, they don't necessarily put all the props out. So it gets real close to the week. So we like to talk about props where we're liking them. We're like, oh, let's take a look at what this one looks like when it pops out. But I like Toast what you said on a few of those, maybe taking the Jackson Dart, Trey Harris. I like the idea of throwing Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter together. Anything else you were thinking on those? Anything that pops out as you've been looking at these?
Yeah, I think my go-to this week, again, as a novice, all right, is going to be playing the prop bets on the Ole Miss game and also on the Texas game. They're going up against both non-conference opponents. It's going to be a rout. There's going to be a ton of offense, lots of throwing. The 2 touchdown passes by both quarterbacks should be an ultimate lock. And if you put those two together, I guarantee you could probably get it plus 200. You could probably put $1 million on it. All right, just go ahead and just do that. Honestly, I mean, and if you want to get crazy, again, have the Tennessee game and the Colorado game and both their offenses in your back pocket. If you want to go ahead and put those 4 together in some type of lotto ticket, go ahead. But I'm going to go ahead and actually play the Ole Miss and the Texas, both to actually, again, QB's 2 touchdown passes. Yep, and just put those together, get it plus 200. I'm going to put a lot on it. I'm going to go ahead and get my bank up there. That's a given. That's a given. I don't even know anything about college football. That's a given.
Yeah, I like those. You could even throw like a Cam Ward, Miami, and
JT, but
there.
Only if you're getting greedy. Only if you're getting greedy.
I know, you know me.
I mean, but plus 200, you could just go ahead and just do it. I mean,
I'm like Toast. I could get that up to plus 4,000. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
you're like, don't take it, Justin.
You could get it plus 200 and just put $1 million on it, right? Like, put $1 million on it.
Oh, shoot.
I love it. Well, that's going to do it for us here. Tuesday night, college football, week 4 betting on Fantasy and Frames. You've been listening to The Stew with JT Brew. I got my guy, Ben Dyer, Benny D, Ben Dyer 8, and special guest Toast jumping in here at Toast Clark. Jump in, listen to him. He's on our hockey podcast Around the Ice here on Fantasy and Frames. We run that every Tuesday night before the college football betting show. So if you got on here late night, jump in and check out the jump in and check out the NHL fantasy show where we talk about fantasy, we talk about real life hockey, we talk gambling on there as well. As we get going to the season, we just did our breakdown, our home fantasy league. We just did a redraft, all new Dynasty format for this year. So if you are looking to get into a hockey league, jump in, watch that show, kind of see what we did, how we set up our league and all the other stuff. And then tomorrow night, just tons of action here on Fantasy and Frames. Make sure to tune in all night, starting at 7:00 Eastern time. We'll run through everything. We got Dynasty 465. We've got Shoot the Gap. We've got just a whole slew of shows all night long for all your fantasy needs. So make sure to check that out. And again, like and subscribe if you can. Hit the notification bell. It'll let you know when our shows are on. We run the show every Tuesday night. Usually try to shoot for about 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern. But occasionally we get pushed back a little bit, and we start just a hair later. But
keep me up past my bedtime tonight, guys.
I know. Making you work for it there, Benny. I appreciate it. Thanks for everybody that tuned in and watched the show. We do greatly appreciate it. And hey, we'll keep those bets rolling. So check us out on X and Twitter. We'll keep bets going throughout the week. You've been listening to Stu. Thanks. We'll talk to you later.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so start an institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who click in groups. I introduce you to the steward JT Brew.